So Trump has came out and said that he's vetoing that massive stimulus plan because of the lack of stimulus. He doesn't think $600 is enough. He's right. He wants it to be $2,000. And here's him kind of explaining some of the reasons behind this veto.
In an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda.
Well, that's not the left-wing agenda part isn't true. The Republicans and Democrats are both controlled by the same corporate moneyed interest. Trump, don't get it twisted there, buddy.
Election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American
He's
people.
right about the urgently needed part, that's for sure.
It's taken forever.
He's right. Everybody should have been getting $2,000 a month during this whole pandemic. Cancel student loan debt, cancel rent, cancel mortgage payments, Medicare for all, pay people to stay home, people who do have to work, make sure they are given a tremendous amount of hazard pay.
The bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated. It really is a disgrace.
He's right.
For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and
He's right. I mean, they're literally given that 5,000 page monstrosity on the same day they were supposed to vote on it. I read something that it would take about the average person something like 138 hours to be able to read that. I mean, even that seems like, like it would be hard to do in that amount of time, and they are supposed to do it the same day. It's ridiculous.
It's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID.
He's right.
The bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma.
And depending on what type of aid that is, I wouldn't have a problem with it because those numbers aren't honestly that huge if they're going for things like humanitarian aid, healthcare, education, that type of stuff, and not like the $33 million they're giving to Venezuela to try to overthrow the socialistly elected Maduro government there, So it depends. There's definitely a lot of dog shit in this bill, like giving a bunch of money to Israel for their missile defense system, the 3 martini lunch deduction, stuff to Venezuela, something about the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, like all kinds of stuff.
$3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian.
So he just wants them to buy weapons from the U.S.
$25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan.
I mean, that sounds fine if that's what it's actually going for, honestly.
$5 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama.
Again, depending on the type of aid, I don't have a problem with that, honestly. Like, if it's humanitarian and to help the people and not to oppress the working class and the vulnerable and the marginalized there, and not to prop up, multinational interest or the interests of the military-industrial complex, as long as it's not doing shady shit, totally fine with helping out other countries in, humanitarian way.
For the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially...
Which, again, some of that stuff is fine, but it shouldn't have been crammed into this 5,000-page monstrosity. It should have been a clean stimulus bill, expand unemployment, make it retroactive, 2,000 stimulus for everybody, and the other things are actually helping people and not all these corporate, giveaways that it's packed full of. I mean, there's probably still horrible shit in there we don't know about. It's 5,000 fucking pages long.
Not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus
Yeah,
checks.
definitely less money to the FBI. I'm cool with that too. Let's abolish the CIA as well. He's getting a little closer.
For the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each.
Good. Anybody in the U.S. should have access to things that make a decent life. They're migrants or not.
This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular
I mean, I agree with that.
whose owners have suffered so
It's true.
grievously.
He's right.
They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special
I mean, it's
interests,
true.
while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it.
He's
it
not
wasn't
wrong.
their fault. It was China's fault.
Well,
Not their fault.
it's not China's fault. I mean, a good chunk of it can be directed back to you, Mr. President, and our for-profit healthcare system, a capitalist economy that puts corporate profits above people's healths and lives. So it has nothing to do with China. We see China, they're more or less, or at least have been at points, back to normal because of how well they handled the virus compared to the U.S. I mean, for God's sakes.
I'm asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000.
Good.
Or $4,000 for a couple. I'm also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you.
What? I'm not sure what that last part means exactly. So Trump, not on board with this bill, doesn't think it gives people enough money. He's right on that point. Obviously, $600 is a slap in the face. Everybody should have been getting $2,000 a month, along with canceling student loan debt, enacting Medicare for all, giving businesses the money to keep people on the payroll. All of these things should have been happening, and obviously it hasn't. It's been a huge, colossal failure, especially on the federal government level. And so here's Pelosi. Mr. President, sign the bill to keep government open. Urge McConnell and McCarthy to agree with the Democrats' unanimous consent request for $2,000 direct payments. This can be done by noon Christmas. But the unanimous consent process means that one person in either party, if they vote it down, it's torpedoed. Meaning, I don't think really Nancy Pelosi actually wants this to go through. If no senator objects, the Senate permits the action, so this would be true in the House as well. But if any one senator objects, the request is rejected. Unanimous consent requests with only immediate effects are routinely granted, but ones affecting the floor schedule. So I mean, it's like, why do that exactly? And I guess she could have done a roll call vote instead. Let's see. This is from David Dan of the American Prospect. Congress has to come back now next week to override Trump's defense bill veto. Sounds like there's a moment then to force the vote, $2,000 direct payments. There's no excuse anymore. Unanimous consent will fail tomorrow. Congress has to come back next week. They will be voting on the floor. They can override the defense bill and vote to insert 2,000 direct payments instead of 600. So we'll see. In fact, this is the only thing that can now save the COVID relief package and keep the government funded. Trump doesn't have the bill yet, and he can run out the clock with a pocket veto until Congress ends January 3rd. Gotta do something. So, see what happens. Pretty interesting. Let's see. And then, neither McCarthy nor McConnell have commented publicly on Trump's demand for $2,000 checks. McCarthy is the minority leader in the House, and McConnell is obviously the majority leader in the Senate. And I believe both Senate candidates on the Democratic side in Georgia, Ossoff and Warnock, have come out in support, I believe, of this $2,000 part. It would be interesting to see if Loeffler and Perdue do. So we'll see. But I mean, yeah, again, it's not going to pass the House, but they have to come back next week to override the president's veto on that defense bill. And it sounds like they could just plug it into that potentially and get it passed that way. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Ayanna Pressley, move Mitch, get out the way. Should the measure clear the House, it would face an uphill battle in the Republican-controlled Senate. Reality that further highlights the stakes of the Senate runoff in Georgia. Yep. So both of the Democratic candidates there support it. Let's see. So I doubt it's going to pass with this unanimous consent thing. That seems like a really ridiculous way to go about it. Just draft up a clean legislation that includes, the unemployment benefits and the $2,000 checks and the other things that were decent in this bill. It gets separate because, again, Trump's right. I don't necessarily agree with the stuff he was highlighting, but there is a lot of bullshit in this bill that had nothing to do with helping the working class in the United States right now. So we'll see. Do you think these $2,000 checks will get passed? And when? Is it going to have to wait for Biden to get in there? We'll see. Share your thoughts down below. Like the video if you like the damn video. If not, that's cool too. Subscribe for more content. Peace. Much love.